Okay, so first of all, thank you all who are staying through to the afternoon. That is really great. And Erica is right. She saw me at ETHSF, and then she was telling me, come to Asia, come to Asia. And so we have two other people on our team here from EigenLayer. Matt, if you just want to do a quick hand wave. So he's one of our top DevRel people, and we're participating in the hackathon. So definitely, if you feel like hacking, I'd love to see you on the EigenLayer side. And then Sue, over here, is our head of APAC BD. And so if anybody has things they want to talk with her about on that front, please do that. Okay, and so why is the screen so red? I wonder, I know what it is. I bet you my computer is on night shift mode because I just came from San Francisco. Let me turn that off. Until sunrise. Let's see. Oh. Yes. Yes.
Complete change of color.
Okay, perfect. That would have been odd. That would have been very odd. Okay, so so I like to first let people know what I'm going to talk about in a talk like this. And I will give you alerts when I'm changing topics because since I got extra time, I stuffed in a little bit extra in here. I'd like to just level set a little bit. So everybody raise your hands. Hey. No, see, I know if you're not raising it, come on, you want to participate. I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and I want to really know what the answers are. So the first one is, how many people here are familiar with EigenLayer? And so, okay, yes, of course. A lot of hands went down. Okay, that's great. Well, you're going to learn a lot about EigenLayer. All right, now let's put our hands down, and then the other side I'd like to know is on a mix of people who are here for AI and blockchain. If you are here for the AI side primarily at open source AI, and that's sort of your background, you're learning about blockchain, can you raise your hand? Oh, so everybody here is on the blockchain side. Okay. Does anybody here feel like they're an expert on AI in the sense of, you actually hack your own models, you're on Hugging Face every morning looking at seeing what's dropped? Do we have any AI degens? Okay, well that's okay. We will just go through on the blockchain side, and then hopefully people will be able to learn some good things. So one of the first topics I'm going to talk about is crypto settlement and decentralized trust. It's actually really important because a lot of people will just say, oh, just sprinkle blockchain on something. I mean, blockchain definitely helps, but we have these I would call them sort of poser blockchains out there that really aren't that decentralized. And so we need to cover that first. I think a lot of the crypto OGs in the house probably remember when we all talked about fork choice rules, nation state resistance, everything else. That's gone away a little bit as Wall Street's coming, but I think on the AI side, we got to get back to that because AI is really going to need it. Then I'm going to talk about what does the autonomous verifiable web look like. I'm going to talk about how it translates to AI. And then finally, I'm going to be covering why Web3 builders and companies win. Because I always like to get back to the money aspect. There's this point of and why we all win. There's this point that I like to just keep in mind with things like crypto, that money is the marketing. So people want to hear about the money aspect. Okay, so, I actually messed up my build there. But anyway, forget about the thing on the bottom for a second. We'll get back to it in the end. But I want to just talk a little bit about what are coordination layers for humanity. And if we go back really, really far, gold, silver, because they're hard to there was no alchemy that could produce either of them. That was one of the first forms of trusted money or trusted value store. And if you look at the major coordination engines, we can always split hairs on some other potential ones. But if you look at paper money as a great invention, if you look at companies interacting on the accounting side and doing double entry, meaning that everything that comes in came from someone else and vice versa, this allowed really good coordination that didn't exist before it. And these coordination mechanisms are quite old. Then we have things around common stock, so creating limited liability corporations, the ability for people to jointly own things versus being a sole owner, which is a lot more monarchy or lord and lady of the manor type. And then U.S. Constitution. And the interesting point, because it's kind of a big thing, is I put crypto after that, which is over 200 years since the last major coordination. system. So, and then Web3 that's coming up right now, largely, built on the decentralized trust of crypto. And so I just want to emphasize this point here that, this is kind of a common belief at EigenLayer because we look so much and work so much in this coordination around decentralized trust and security. So this is a slide that I think it's really useful for people to see. You can agree or don't agree, but it's useful thinking. That crypto, it's the greatest upgrade. I showed that on the previous slide in over 200 years. And when we talk about crypto, I like to actually just think about it in terms of the raw principle. Decentralized trust is the core principle of crypto. And why do I say that? I say that because if you take some Web2 app that's currently very centralized and trusted, and if you add decentralized trust to it, forget about how you do it, right? Maybe you build an L1, maybe you build an L2, maybe you build an app chain or an app on top of this. If you've moved to decentralized trust, meaning that you have security based on value versus based on, believing that a company is not going to screw you over or mishandle your data, then your Web2 app becomes Web3. If you build a blockchain, but then you don't actually have decentralized trust, and you have trusted multi-sigs and trusted parties, you're not really Web3 anymore. Maybe it's on your roadmap, but until you get those things, until you have large validator pools and everything, you've moved yourself back much closer to Web2. And so this is the point of crypto and Web3. Where are we going? We're kind of close to it now. We're getting closer every day, every year through the hard work of everybody in the space. But we want to create a universal layer of decentralized trust. The reason I say universal layer is I'm very ambitious. I've done a lot of startups. I'm a very optimistic person. My belief is that there will not be companies that we'll want to work with that are Web2 or centralized style in the future. Like, it will be a table stakes requirement to be using our collective infrastructure on crypto and Web3. I think it will take a while to get there, but I just don't see another way that we would want as societies, governments, and individuals to interact. And obviously, that's going to affect things a lot on the AI side. The next thing I like to just kind of cover is I like to talk about, decentralized trust is fine, but what does it actually enable? The first use case, of course, with Bitcoin and Ethereum as sources of money was financial settlement. And then with Ethereum, that expanded out to the entire DeFi space. And with non-fungible tokens, we were able to bring on not just JPEGs, but a lot of things around identity and reputation and data. The Web3 cloud is really about tech settlement, so settling computation, VMs, coprocessors, data storage, networking, everything that you would have in like an Amazon cloud, except now it has decentralized trust based on crypto security. And then this third category, the reason I made this slide is because I think it is useful to also put a very important settlement layer collectively that includes like originally just L1 forks, off-chain L1 forks. And social settlement is really important because without that, what happens if you are in a system on crypto and, let's say you have a DAO and you're like, hey, a DAO is really great, it's decentralized. I'd like to point out to people that it's actually pretty similar to owning stocks in a company. It's decentralized, you own a stock, you get to vote in by governance, the board of directors that runs the CEO. And so just inherently having tokens and voting on them and other things doesn't necessarily make something, not want to become profit-seeking and everything else. So we have to have these other exit mechanisms. And social settlement, things like layer one forking, allow people to decide, hey, this is a captured chain. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a vampire attack or just wholeheartedly switch off. And, examples of these things are big. Bitcoin has had them, Ethereum. The original token, anybody in the audience want to participate and shout out, what was the original Ethereum token called? It was not ETH. Does anybody know? I know. Anybody else in this room know? Come on, you can be a know-it-all if you say it for us. Sue, you know this.
What is it?
You don't know this. Okay, well, you're going to know this in a second. Everybody, okay? The original ETH token was ETC. Oh. It was because BTC, so they called it ETC. Then the DAO hack happened. 25% of the existing ETH in the world was stolen. That would today be like that would today be like $60–70 billion being stolen off Ethereum. And it was so existential that Vitalik actually kind of approved and championed forking the chain, violating the mathematical rule of consensus and the fork choice rule, going back to the block before the DAO hack. And then they called that chain ETH because a lot of the community, I don't know if it was over half, but a lot of the community was like, no, code is law, a hack is legal. And it took like a year for ETC to decrease in value. There was a fair amount of like ETC and ETH being similar values, similar size networks. But ETH had Vitalik, and the EF kind of focused on that, so it ended up winning out. So social settlement, that's what actually determined it. Nobody said ETH or ETC were valid. So that's L1 forks. And then because a lot of people here indicated they have less knowledge about EigenLayer, which I love, I get to tell you first that there is another new off-chain social settlement technology. It was invented by the team at EigenLayer. It's probably, I would say, if everything else on EigenLayer doesn't work out, that would be a really stunning contribution for almost anybody to make a new crypto economic protocol. And it's this concept of intersubjective token forking and slashing. And this is a mechanism where off-chain people can determine if there was some kind of a fault. And the Eigen token specifically, it looks like an ERC20 token. It's actually a dual pair of contracts. The Eigen token in DeFi is wrapped. There's an underlying backing Eigen token, which is staked. It has a multi-week period for withdrawals like Ethereum. And if somebody does a fork challenge on Eigen, you can actually fork the token. The community can decide which one's the valid one. And inside of DeFi, magically, the forked out value of Eigen gets slashed because it disappears from valid crypto. And so it's a very nice mechanism. I just said it very quickly. Sorry, I don't have a slide. It's too detailed to do in a presentation like this anyway. So, these are the three categories, and, assets, Web3 cloud, no surprise. And I really do like to say, like, social settlement is the ultimate backstop to central capture. It is the foundation bedrock. Without it, financial settlement and tech settlement wouldn't be that different from Web2 alone. And so, as people now come into crypto and they get it all accepted, let's just remember that it's really important we all stand on this social settlement layer. Okay, and so then I just wanted to unpack the word settlement because, there's a lot of terms in blockchain. Permissionlessness and liveness are like, being able to read and write from a blockchain, which is important to be able to, fork blockchains. You have to be able to read the old state. Liveness means the chain keeps moving forward. Security is like basically what settlement means. It means security. This is not conventional, someone trying to hack your account. This is security in blockchains means that finalized transactions don't revert. And so what is the threshold on that? And so this basically settlement, financial, tech, and social, this is what settlement means. And so humans arbitrating, finalize, and actualing an agreement. That's what we mean by social settlement, and you can read the others. Okay, so now we're gonna do the gear shift. Now that we've got the little bit of, settlement 101 covered, we're gonna go to the autonomous verifiable Web3. For that, I like to just point out that modularity is what we use to build complex systems. This is the software stack on the left side. These are all the layers that you have to build. Many of them you just use from the cloud, and people just work at applications and data, but they're all there. Networking has a stack as well. It's very, common theme. AI has a stack now. I don't know if I've got exactly the right stack, but this one at least makes sense to me, and I found it on the web. ChatGPT helped me look it up, so ChatGPT should know. Okay, blockchain modularization. So this, I'd like another slide to just kind of show quickly. Bitcoin to Ethereum 2, they kept generalizing the various layers, not just apps in Ethereum, but now execution layers and layer 2 rollups. And EigenLayer has, basically identified shared security as a modular item. It used to always be monolithically wrapped, as you see in Bitcoin and Ethereum, as a part of the consensus algorithm. And in EigenLayer, we've pulled that out. For all of the kind of fanfare and information and attention to EigenLayer, It's really interesting. EigenLayer is not a chain. It doesn't have a chain. It runs on Ethereum. Most of the security in EigenLayer is based of protocol ERC20 tokens plus Ethereum. So it's a very, it's like a meeting of markets kind of merchant protocol. It's not some, hey, winner takes all kind of thing. And so it really looks now that you can have multiple consensus protocols. So you can actually get a lot of the L1-ness on EigenLayer. I know we had a discussion. I heard a couple speakers talking about L1 and L2s. So I threw in a few slides that I have on that. So I'll come up to that in a little. Oh, I'm coming up to that right now. So I put them here. So, I just wanted to say, like, why are there so many L1s? And in a sense, why are there so many L2s? And this is my reason. I don't know that it's right or not. Come up and talk with me if you disagree. Humans like to actually create and own something themselves, like being a big fish, even if it's in a small pond. And this is a great quote. It was, Tezos and Arthur Brittman. I have a special place in my heart. The first ever article I read about blockchain was a Wired article, which was blockchain, a love story, because it was Arthur and his wife that met through Tezos. So it said blockchain, a love story, a horror story, and then it went into like 15-page long-form article about like what a disaster governance and the foundation was and everything else. So, but this is a very typical thing. Like, hey, there's so many chains around, and Tezos is like, we're going to unify them by creating another chain. Very, very human nature. The investment thesis of why there's so many L1s. You ask an investor, and it's not invented here, but it's need investable token. And so that's the L1 token premise, is that you have a higher upside potential with L1s. But I just want to alert people who are, starting a protocol. It's a major decision to make. Like, yes, you may have a higher token potential, but the network effects are going to be hard to build. You got to create a new community. L2s, picking the right L1 and building it as an L2 starts you off with much easier user and liquidity acquisition, as we've seen with like L2s on Ethereum. And that's one of the reasons EigenLayer chose that, it's effectively an L2. It's a non-chain L2 built on Ethereum, because the only thing that we port over is all of ETH and ERC20 security into the space, allow them to be fused, allow them to be packetized, allow a marketplace to buy and sell that security, rent it with operators and stakers. So, okay, and then here, this is a really interesting slide here, which is like, if you really, really want to make money, make a meme coin. Don't even make a chain. Like, these are meme coins, and this is sort of, I think, the revenue on the meme coin. For some of these coins, they're L1s themselves, and they do nothing. So, of course, they can have the highest revenue potential, because, there's nothing telling you to ground it. So, but again, almost every meme coin is worth zero. So, like, the volatility, there's a high long tail or power law, but, I would say the average is probably pretty shitty on those overall. L1s, Ethereum, Solana, if you look at the gas fees, 1000x. The reason I say this, I wanted to put this slide up, is that, people who are making this choice, just keep in mind that, like, if you have a winner L2, you do really well as well. And, like, I would argue it's just as hard to be, an Ethereum or Solana as it is to be an Arbitrum or Optimism. So, there's a lot of reasons that, I'm a big fan of that. And then for a lot of people who are coming into Web3, they're going to be building infrastructure and other things. The revenue multiples are, not a shocker, going to look more like a regular stock market multiples, which are totally respectable, but just keep in mind, if you're not doing L1s and L2s, you really have to work on your revenue, because these multiples are on revenue. Okay, so next I'm just going to talk briefly, finishing this section out, on hardware and technology stack before cloud was you manage everything. And then cloud came along, and beautifully, it added infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, and it allowed, you as a software and service to, like, sell that application in the cloud through APIs. And then platform as a service was another place software vendors could work, and then infrastructure as a service, that's owned by the cloud for the most part. So you have your EC2 and you have your S3 and everything else in the Amazon example. So infrastructure as a service, DPIN, decentralized physical infrastructure, is what it means in crypto, which is different than the personal information network that we heard earlier from PIN AI. Platform, that's middleware, software talking to software, and then SaaS is end user facing. And then my final, comment on this slide is that, we should think about it like these layers are going to exist again. Why are they going to exist again? Because developers have been using them for 20 years, and it works. Okay, and so if somebody's creating in Uber Cloud, offering Web3 cloud that has everything built in it, I think categorically that's not going to work. I think we're going to have thousands of software companies deploying as protocols with decentralized trust. And you can see the reason I have this here is what do they all need? They need security and decentralized trust. So that's why I'm really happy to be working in EigenLayer and focusing on the one little sprinkle of salt that makes all of infrastructure and all of software extra tasty, Web3 tasty. Okay, and so, EigenLayer in particular, I actually have very few deep slides on it, but I'm gonna just talk about this one. So on-chain verifiability, which is underpinned by crypto economic security, that's what gives it decentralized trust. That's ETH staking, ETH slashing. Oh, I gotta update this slide because we support all ERC20s. So we're very happy if protocols bring their own tokens and try to build a lot of value in their own tokens. It's great. And then off-chain verifiability is this intersubjective token, which allows you in a matter of days, definitely within 2 weeks or so, to have full slashing based on off-chain commitments. And they allow you to do things that are not interpretable on-chain mathematically, and they also allow you to do these tricks where you can have much less computational overhead, which is awesome for AI. And so we have this category, creation of restaking. We also created a new category, which are AVSs. AVSs stand for autonomously verifiable services. And the autonomous means they're unstoppable. Why are they unstoppable? Because as long as you pay people to do something, blockchain has showed this, they will come and do it because they want to make money. People love money. And they're verifiable. Why are they verifiable? They're verifiable because someone will lose money if it is not verified. If they cheat and they do the wrong thing, someone else will come in and they will take a bounty for proving that that person was wrong. So it's self-monitoring, self-acting. Okay, so I think I covered those. You can read the slide later if you want to see it. And the takeaway is that EigenLayer's AVSs, which are all of the protocols built by other people. We have hundreds already being built. I expect that number in short order to be thousands. And the reason why is that people want to create, and this is the easiest platform for creating. Okay, so now we're going to finally move on to the AI portion. Okay, so we've covered all of the infrastructure side. Let's focus on that. And I think a lot of people here are going to be kind of recognizing this kind of a picture: agent runtime, orchestration, the model, the LLM typically. And then the tools, which are the off-chain or the real-world kind of connections from an AI, both sensing the world and acting on the world. If you want to actually have a verifiable agent, then you need to verify all of the components, the orchestration, the model, and you need to verify the tool calls. So interesting point is that the verifiability of the orchestration and the model can be done on-chain. Although for efficiency, because it's actually pretty expensive to do ZKML, there's a lot of cases where it's kind of convenient and powerful if you can do optimistic verification off-chain, and then people will slash you if you do it the wrong way. So in the happy case, you're just running the computation exactly with the same cost as you would right now. But tools have to be verifiable off-chain. And the reason is you take an example of you're sensing the price of something, which is an oracle. Nobody can really tell you on chain for sure that Bitcoin is $100,000 or $5. That's something that has to be interpreted from off chain. Nobody can tell you that there's a data availability withholding attack that has to be figured out by humans off chain. And so just to sort of highlight this, I like to point out that the orchestration and the model are like our human brain sitting in the dark, wet environment of our skull, meaning that it's in a closet. It doesn't know anything that's happening out there. It's pure reasoning or pure emotion. And then the tools, which are eyes, ears, hands, our motors and our senses. And the AVS ecosystem powers verifiable agents. I'll show you in a little bit, but essentially every single one of these boxes here, people are building protocols and hopefully going to have great investment outcomes for their teams. And these are all put together. I won't go in detail. This slide just shows examples. We pulled like some of the leaders in the various categories, things that don't even exist in Web 2, like proving your location, proving machinehood, yeah, secret sharing, and so forth. So we had created this category list in 2023. We didn't expect, but actually they all ended up being built in 2024. And so that was awesome. And Electric Capital last year cited EigenLayer as the fastest growing developer ecosystem in crypto. We did not lobby for this. They just noted how many protocols and how many developers are building against these repos and against these APIs. For AI, we actually created a new version of the category map that has a little bit more of like things that are focused on what's needed for agents. And you'll notice that, you know, we actually need new people to come in and fill out some of these categories. So that's like a greenfield for people who want to be a big fish in a new category. Go ahead and come on here. There are people building these, but they're not on EigenLayer. They're not using this large pool of security and operators, you know, from our kind of protocol right now. They're doing L1s and L2s, and you know, so that's a good outcome, of course, for them too. But I think there'll be good outcomes for people building on us as well. A little kind of parenthetical that I like to just say about like AGI and what it's going to usher in. We have people who are very excited about it, thinking that it's going to be a utopia. And we have very valid people like Elon Musk, Jeffrey Hinton, who like created deep learning, who actually think AGI is going to like wreck the world. So the observation that I think we've made, I definitely believe this, is that AGI is bringing limitless intelligence to us. First time ever. This is like the steam engine. I mean, it's transforming society. Probably you might have to go all the way back to fire to like find an invention that's going to be as fundamental in how it reshapes humanity. And Web3 blockchains, which are verifiable computers. So for verifiable AGI, right, that means it needs to be trustless. And Web3 blockchains can basically do that through those components. So, you know, the reason I show that slide is if you believe in the coming AGI utopia, then you want AGIs to learn how to form a better symbiosis. I think one of the people was talking about like the God framework for doing better AGI and better safety. And if you believe in the coming AGI dystopia, then you think, hey, corporations are going to become super locked in with network effects, and there's going to be this tiger, which we won't know how to deal with, even taking over governments. And so you want something that's going to help you prevent these. My argument is that, you know, autonomous AGIs that are verifiable on and off chain, they will learn and be constrained by crypto protocols, and they will both help on the right side to prevent dystopia, and they will help us better achieve a utopia. So it's a very kind of powerful statement, and I think a huge opportunity for us. So I'm just going to kind of hop through. Take a look at my slides later because they're going to show them. But essentially, you know, there's this argument that open technology is the one that wins eventually over sometimes decades, but sometimes much shorter. Cloud platforms have controlled the software market. Web3 is offering new entry points into a multi-trillion-dollar information technology market. Very, very big opportunity. I'd like to point out to people, because a lot of people haven't been around long enough to have seen, there was a pre-cloud time where software was built, people actually would get CDs or other things, and they'd load them on their private data centers. The Web2 public cloud dramatically accelerated the ability to deploy open source software into software creators' team SaaS, and the software would be run in the cloud, and the apps would be run on top of that, and the software creators were building the core, so there was nice even value extraction, value accumulation. But oh no, along came the Web2 cloud. The vendors there realized they could actually be building SaaS as well based on the open core, and so they were taking money. And they typically have not actually contributed back to the open source core, so they kind of broke the system in the contract. And in fact, I would actually argue in a lot of cases they've taken a dramatic amount of the money out of it. So forked value capture, software team is kind of pitted against the integrated SaaS stack, which is a very compelling offer to somebody else who is already using a lot of the Web2 cloud stack to just add on more modules. So if you're building software, the beautiful thing is like you'll notice now the, God, what is the name of that color? Aqua? I can't remember. I should learn that color again. But anyway, the light color of the cloud and the hardware kind of infrastructure, that's actually back into a relatively small circle because it's created out of all the DePIN technologies. And now the Web3 SaaS is running on top of it. Notice there's no Web2 cloud or cloud vendor in the middle. And I'd argue because there's not one big centralized player in the Web3 cloud. And so you get this competition again with multiple categories, and they're not big enough to be going after SaaS specifically. And then the dApps are on top of that. So there's much better value accumulation and transfer. Really, I would say like the left side of this of software creator teams. And we've seen this, like all of crypto is essentially open source, and yet we've had many hundreds of billions of dollars of value creation. That would not have happened in Web 2. I feel quite convinced on that. So, okay, these are my 2 wrap-up slides. Building software in Web 3. It is better. I've made this argument to many, many investors in Web 2. There are more ways to raise initial and further capital. You can do token sales publicly. You can go to regular investors. You can get token swaps from other protocols, large grants. And there's a lot of ways, for building. You have de-risked platforms. You have network effects where the Web3 network effects can be used by you. Like, Near was talking this morning about 5 million daily or monthly active users. So if you build on something like Near, those are all your users, or they're very easy to acquire versus starting from scratch. And it's better for outcomes because you can do token sales. You can, of course, get acquired by other protocols. And in Web 2, the average enterprise customer takes 5 to 7 years to do an IPO or an acquisition. And as we know in crypto, that's more like 2 years. So the speed of money and the speed of liquidity is really awesome in Web 3. And then why do we win as consumers? Well, we get superpowers. I mean, I love superpowers. We can be private by default. When we put data in a network, you get to bring your work and effort anywhere that you want. You own it. And your hard-earned reputation can be used by you. It can be brought to other platforms. It could be even fused. In Web 3, you can actually take your reputation on Uber and Lyft and any other number of rideshare services, and you can bring them to a Web 3 rideshare service. You can't do that between the Web 2 algorithms. And then finally, algorithms for things that control your attention on social media platforms. Those can actually be opened so that you're able to swap them out, or at least someone can inspect and find out if they really are trying to control your thinking so that you just sit and mindlessly doom scroll through things. And then finally, the other big one, maybe I should put this first because it's such a big feature of why Web3 is great, is I have this strong belief that competition breeds excellence. Why do I have that? Because that's what's always happened. Competition, and actually, in a sense, capitalism is a great economic system because it breeds competition until there's a monopoly. So, as long as you have adequate competition, then everybody has to be investing in features and improvements. I put high velocity down for that. And so I have this tagline that I like to say, which is, competition, innovate. Right? If a lot of people are competing, they have to be racing to get ahead of each other. If you own an entire market, your entire thing shifts to pricing. You already own the market. So what do you have to do? You have to raise price. If somebody looks at it, Starbucks stock one time had this huge bump because Starbucks decided to raise the prices by $1. Okay, that's not innovation, but the shareholders were like, everyone's addicted to it. We just got more profit. And so monopolies stagnate on features. And there go my takeaways. And if you take a look at the slides, you can read a couple of articles. We did this one revisiting the world computer with some of our friends. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Ethereum was originally called the world computer. Really slow world computer. Now we can revisit it because so much work has been done on speeding it up. And, I thank the Near guys for putting this conference together. They definitely have been one of the teams that did a lot of work from the early days on that. A manifesto for open source builders, I wrote that, and that basically goes in a long format through some of the stuff I said about open source. And then as a protocol, we've written about autonomous verifiable services. Watch for us to be talking a lot more about AI and Web3 cloud as well. And thank you. And there's my Twitter in case you want to connect or if you want to look at anything there. Thank you.
So nice.
So nice. And now I made us a little late. I took more time than you gave me, Erica.
It's fine. It was great.
Yeah.
Thank you. 뭐 혹시 질문이나 yeah.
Oh, we have a question. Okay.
One question.
Go.
Thank you so much for this fundamental-based speech.
Yeah,
It was
it
really
is
good.
a lot like that.
Yeah, it was a good history.
I was just over at a university in America a day before yesterday doing a 2+ hour class.
Wow.
So I do like professing.
I loved it, by the way. But anyways, I want to ask about like how you think about the recent market. Like, there's a lot of other restaking infrastructure, like developing a lot in other assets like Bitcoins and Solana. How do you think about this?
Well, so, if I said that EigenLayer should take the entire market, I just told you that competition innovates and monopolies stagnate. So the beautiful thing, when I came into EigenLayer, we actually had no competition. A lot of investors thought our thesis was somewhere between crazy and stupid, and so they actually missed out and wanted to get in later, but it was a little late for them. So very happy with our investors who got in early. They've been great stewards with us. So, but I noticed even internally when we started having competition, everyone started making hard choices and moving faster. So I love competition. I want more competition. I really do. And so we have competition both in the Ethereum space. I think we've been beating that competition. I'm not surprised at that because I think in Ethereum, we have like the best value proposition. So if you like Ethereum, ETH, ERC20s, I think you should just build on us, honestly. But then we have competition in other spaces as well. So other L1 protocols, we're not playing in those protocols. So that in a sense, remains as like solid competition for us. So we've seen that in Ethereum's like biggest competitor these days. Haven't really seen it in Bitcoin yet, but I suspect we probably will see it because Bitcoiners don't know how to stay in. I'm going to make a joke. This is just a joke. Stay in their lane. Like they have $100 trillion opportunity of store value in digital gold. And then they're like, we want this other thing. And I'm like, guys, why are you making it so complicated? You already won that market. So I think it's a good question. I think that's all there. I have an article that I really should put out there. It's almost a little tongue-in-cheek, but I wrote a long piece and I did research on when do fast followers who didn't believe in something and didn't invent it, when do they win? And when is like, the first mover advantage hold? When does the second mover advantage hold? And so I kind of defer when I have that one out, take a look at it. I'll post it on Twitter probably in the next week or two. And there is like good research on it. And I think, I think we're in a very good position that most of the people who are trying to fast follow us are fitting in the category that they're going to fail. We have some that are doing the right things though. And so I could, I don't want to name names, but, I think we'll have competition for a long time. And I think, like I said, consumers will win. Thank you.